Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. I am John Pollock here alongside Wai Ting for the next amount of time that is listed in front of you. How are you, Wai?
Not bad, John. Yourself?
I am doing all right. I'm doing okay. We have a lot of stuff to discuss on tonight's show. There is plenty going on in the wrestling world, and we have a 2-hour Dynamite show to discuss.
As always, there's always lots going on. But anything specific to today?
Specific to today, I'm rewinding. Well, I had a great chat today with Damian Abraham. If you want to go check that interview out on the website, chatting about the passing of Danny Havoc. Damian joined me earlier today, so we had a discussion about his interactions with him over the years and his episode of The Wrestlers. So yeah, it's always great to catch up with Damian, even for a unfortunate news item such as that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard it yet, but I look forward to hearing it.
I will add, I thought our Ask Away, I don't always just want to be the person like, oh, this show's great, and this show's great, and this show's great. I really thought our Ask Away was very good this week. I think it might have been our best Ask Away. Really?
Okay. It's hard.
That show's hit and miss. I'll be honest. Like, there's sometimes where it's like the questions are, some are really great and I get going, and this is as much on me. Like, sometimes it's I've got to engage with the questions asked, but there were really good questions this week, and I thought that my energy level lasted like a good 90% of the show.
I think you're too hard on yourself. I'm usually pretty happy after Ask Aways, but this one maybe in particular was that much more special.
Yes. So that's out there. If you want to hear us talk about what the appeal was of Limp Bizkit, we really try to narrow in on a very bizarre moment in pop culture history. And from there, we go into many other more discussions.
That should be a whole episode of The Last Ride, is The Undertaker's relationship with Limp Bizkit's Rollin'.
Yeah. What was it about? What was the chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water and its impact on you, Mark Calloway?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to envision the man doing karaoke. So we will move on from there. I want to thank everyone for all the comments regarding Monday's show. I don't want to spend time like some like pat on the back or anything. That is really directed towards Nate and Andrew, who really made that show, and I'm glad we could just facilitate for them to come on. But I heard from lots and lots of people, both publicly and privately, about that show. I'm very happy the way it came out, and I'm really glad that we did it in that format.
I want to thank people for the retweets, most importantly, for the people that shared it, and people who took the time to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I felt, both of us felt very strongly about starting the show with that. And Nate and Andrew, I think, were just fantastic on that show. So that's from Monday's episode of Rewind to Raw. We have a lot of shows coming up in the next couple of days. We'll have an interview with Mike Bond of MMA Junkie on Thursday. Friday, we've got Rewind, a SmackDown live. 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, right after SmackDown. Wai and I will be taking your phone calls, maybe even preview a bit of In Your House on Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I wanted to let everybody know that our friends at Up Next, which you can, of course, listen to their review of tonight's NXT on their feed right now. But if you wanted to do check out a watch along while you're watching NXT In Your House this Sunday, our friends at Up Next will be doing that on their YouTube channel, youtube.com/UPNXT. They'll be watching along with the show live. Maybe I'll even join them. Or like I'll watch.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do a live commentary track and then do a review of the show. I would not have that endurance. There's no way.
We'll find out.
Okay, well, Braden and Davey will be in their house chatting in your house.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. So that's on Sunday. Also, Sunday, very big day. We've also got Wai and Pauline reviewing the second to last episode of Total Bellas, which is really the episode I've been waiting for the most. I don't care about the season finale. I care about episode 10.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's been some confusion. I don't know if there is an actual episode 11 or not, but we will be talking about episodes 9 and 10, and we shall see if there's an episode 11. But certainly, episode 10 will be a big one because it's probably going to end with a big proposal.
Will it be in a WrestleMania tag match though?
No, it won't.
Okay.
Will she say yes?
I don't know. You would think that after such an event like that, you would be opposed to televised proposals, but we'll see. Maybe she better just tell Artem, given oh wait, he's a dancer, right? Not a. I'm thinking of a. He wasn't an ice skater, right? He's a dancer.
Dancer, yeah, dancing with the stars.
I was going to make a thin ice joke, but then I remembered he's not a skater. He's a dancer. So never mind. This is. I'm clearly showing my lack of Total Bella's knowledge.
It's all good. You're going to read the book with me, and we're going to get caught up. You'll be an expert by the end of the month.
Yeah, me and Wai may have unintentionally agreed to a book club during Tuesday's Ask Away. Mm-hmm. And then finally on Sunday, W.H. Park's new series, The Long and Winding Royal Road, will be kicking off with the history of the Triple Crown. He's going to be joined by Joseph Monticello. He's going to be joining WH to chat about the history of the Triple Crown. This is a new monthly series that WH will be doing, looking at the history of All Japan throughout the decade of the 90s, and should be a really fun show. And that's all coming up Sunday. So big weekend at postwrestling.com.
As always. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Yes, let's get right into it in the form of a t-shirt giveaway.
Oh, damn. Yes, you're right. That's exactly what I meant. I got the bag.
Well,
open.
You meant like you were walking around shirtless and you saw one of our new Post Wrestling shirts, maybe a Post Pro Res shirt, maybe a Rocky Maivia Picture Show shirt, and you said, let's get into it.
Yeah.
One of our cafe members can get into it because this shirt is coming for you. 100% cotton.
Sure. Yeah. I can't necessarily confirm the materials.
Okay. It might be polyester. It might be a tight metallic shirt that Matt Hardy wore on the May 21st, 2001 episode of Raw. I don't know the material, but it's great.
It's a very comfortable shirt.
Yeah, it's whatever fabric you most prefer. That's what it is. Yeah. So if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, guess what? Your name may be called momentarily. Your phone isn't going to ring, but this is better than winning a house. It's winning a shirt to put in your house. So Wai, let us get the drum roll going. And the winner of the prestigious Post Wrestling shirt of your choosing, it's going to the person who has had a deep desire to win this shirt for weeks, if not months.
Congratulations to Matthew Arts.
I knew it. He was my pick. Matthew Arts.
Matthew Arts out of Australia, I believe. Mixed Matthew Arts is what I'm going to call you. Congratulations.
Mixed Matthew Arts. Wow. Mixed Matthew Arts. What's gone into you this week?
I've clearly hit my threshold.
You're on a roll, dude.
No, I've clearly hit my threshold.
I don't give a shit about the schedule Cody's about to go on with this open challenge. I think the real streak is Wai Ting here. I mean, I'm putting my hands up. I give up. I can't keep up with you.
I think it's absolutely clear who I've spent the most time with talking to on a nightly basis for the past 10 years.
Yeah. I was struggling tonight because I was really trying to get some kind of coherent show title that would incorporate Welcome to the Jungle with Guns and Rhodes. I spent like 5 minutes and I was like, I can't do it. I just can't.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, it might come to you throughout the...
Well, then I saw Dustin out there and I saw Billy Gunn. And I'm like, if they ever face off, we've got our show title.
Absolutely. Save that one.
Okay. News, because they're not here for the opening 5 minutes. They're here for the closing 100. So AEW Fyter Fest was announced on Wednesday's episode. We are going to get a two-night too big for just one night event of Fyter Fest. It's not going to be on pay-per-view. Instead, it will air July 1st and July 8th free on TNT. I'm semi-surprised that they are going this direction, making it free on television. As opposed, I think that coming off that number for Double or Nothing, this would have been one to go the pay-per-view route again.
It's clearly something that I would assume that they were undecided with up until this week. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I think that you would have had a full announcement. There seemed to be no indication last week that this would be a multi-night event, and you have to imagine that they were considering a number of options, including putting it on pay-per-view, maybe putting it on semi-free service like we had last year. If you remember, what was it? Like you sign up for a thing and you get to watch it for free, or what? You remember? Was it BR Live?
Yeah, to be honest, Fyter Fest was the one that I remember I missed it last year, and you did that review, so I didn't even have to sign up for anything to watch it. I can't remember what the setup was. But yeah, I think it was like you sign up for BR Live, and then you didn't have to pay for it. As I think that's how it was.
People don't bother correcting us. We'll find out off air, so we don't need to.
Oh, please,
you don't have to
please.
tell us. Anyway,
I need to know how I didn't order this last year. Please tell me.
Yeah, but this seems to be, I guess, the next best option, because those ones maybe they don't have as many benefits attached to them. And we're talking about right now, I think, a TV show with many months to go before their next pay-per-view that needs any hook imaginable that they can do, and not just one but two pay-per-view themed shows will probably do quite well for them, you would think.
So that's the latest on Fyter Fest, and we'll get into the matches that they've confirmed. Well, I mean, the matches we knew already prior to tonight's episode with Jon Moxley, Brian Cage, and Omega and Page against the Best Friends. Those are the only two official matches so far. Now, as it relates to Florida, there was kind of a mixture of news regarding how the state is dealing with the coronavirus. They reported their biggest spike in cases on Wednesday since April 17th. They had 1,317 new cases. Now, it is kind of, to clarify, they're also testing a lot more. So some people believe that is going to inherently grow the number of cases. But that said, the state, at least in 64 of its 67 counties, are moving into phase 2 of their reopening process. And what this allows is bars and certain places like movie theaters, bowling alleys, if the Street Profits and Viking Raiders want to have a big party, and entertainment venues can operate at 50% capacity. And I would think entertainment venues, that would extend to a place like a Daly's Place, for instance. So at 50% capacity, it's not out of the realm of possibility that WWE and AEW could have some fans if these entertainment values would include Daly's Place, the Performance Center, or Full Sail University.
You would think so, yeah. Like, if anything, with combat sports already having events, you would think that would put them closer to like the line of who gets to open up doors sooner.
It would seem like, and if you're talking like SummerSlam, I could definitely see SummerSlam in Florida, and by August, they may be able to open even more so. Like, I think SummerSlam with fans may be a realistic possibility, and I guess now it's going to. I'm more curious in what AEW's approach is. Like, they have put people in the crowds a lot more than WWE has, but I think WWE is going to be. It's going to be interesting to see both companies and how if they have the option of having a certain amount of fans, how aggressive will they be? Are they just going to completely open their doors and allow the limit that they're allowed? Are they going to be cautious? It seems that the door is creeping open now, where this could be a possibility in the next little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and certainly I think as the weeks progress, due to whatever circumstances, people are taking more and more risk as it relates to COVID, and we await to see the results of everything that's taken place so far. And if the results
except the results of WWE's non-existent COVID-19 testing.
Except those results, sure. If at the end of all this, it's like a minimal difference, I guess it just, increases the comfort of everybody to just be able to take part in things like this again. And as we kind of talked about yesterday on Ask Away, like in a month time, so much can change. I didn't think a month ago I would be like thinking about this conversation, but at like this early, but here we are.
What's your prediction that come next WrestleMania in LA? That's where it is. What do you think WrestleMania is looking like at this point, this far out?
Jeez. If it's in LA, I mean, at this rate, I think I could see it happening.
I can certainly see it happening.
Not necessarily at full capacity, but then again, I don't know. It's tough for me to predict about. It's so much of this.
I think the NFL is really going to dictate it. Like if we're talking like the NFL opens and they're just filling these stadiums, like I think the NFL is really going to dictate things for how everyone else is going to respond when it comes to big stadium events.
Yeah, sure.
Now, in the same vein, Bushiroad has announced that Stardom and New Japan are going to start to resume shows. They put out a statement that Bushiroad has canceled and postponed many events from February in consideration of the situation of new coronavirus infection. With the cancellation of the emergency declaration, we have decided to restart live events such as pro wrestling, stage performances, and live music performances, and have decided to carry out antibody tests for all athletes and performers for safety and security for all live events such as New Japan performances, Stardom, theatrical group performances, and Bushiroad Music Live performances. A doctor will perform an antibody test in advance for all players and performers, as well as staff members who are closely related.
Right. Okay. So antibody tests are basically tests done to see if you had COVID-19.
If you had it, not if you have the active virus. Right. So it is a test. I'm surprised it is not more thorough than that, but it is a test. And I guess they feel that they're at a comfort level that just being able to do like this. They don't say anything here about fans either. I'm assuming this is going to be strictly empty arena shows. So, I mean, it's pretty much just they're going to be following suit with what we've been seeing here in the U.S.
Numbers are very different, though, in Japan.
Yes, yeah. They are different. It does seem, though, like somewhat, for New Japan at least, I mean, they did have that Harold May statement about once the state of emergency was lifted and certain other conditions were met, that then they would start to examine empty arena shows. It seems that Bushiroad is at that point. And the next question would be what is the timetable on this? How fast does New Japan look to put this into action? I mean, will they be holding shows by July?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In time for, do you still go with your old calendar? Do you still call a show Dominion, or do you you would still go with the G1, I would assume. But I mean, at that point, they would have to rejig, everything else, like Best of the Super Juniors, what they attempt. And yeah.
I mean, you had this whole summer pretty much blocked off because, you weren't going to be running the G1 this summer. It's, you could do the idea of Best of the Super Juniors, and it's just going to be Japanese talent. I don't know how this is going to impact, foreigners coming in. I would think that would still be somewhat difficult to pull off. Like All Japan is not expecting the Champion Carnival to have foreigners in it. But so it seems like New Japan is at least at the stage now where they are ready to move forward with shows. Then we have this video that ended Impact Wrestling on Tuesday night. This was probably the most newsworthy thing to come out of Impact in quite some time. There's a mysterious figure that sits in front of a television screen as he's having a drink, and the newscaster is recapping the WWE releases from April with a big sign that reads, "You're fired." And then we get into a slew of images of former WWE talent, and this included, we had EC3 in here, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Mike and Maria. There was the Bulgarian flag was represented. Kurt Hawkins was in there, and Drake Maverick, which does not seem to be indicative of anything related to Impact Wrestling, as we'll get into with his treatment on NXT tonight. But yeah, this at the end, it's just plugging Slammiversary, which interestingly enough will be done on a Saturday night. They're going to move their pay-per-view from Sunday nights for July 18th, and I guess the tease is at least some of these performers, if not all but Drake Maverick, would be coming in.
I thought it was a really well done little video, and certainly seeing the results, it was a great way for to get people talking about Impact and to let people know about this pay-per-view that's coming up for them. So I thought it was like a really smart thing. Now I think the expectation that it sets is something that they definitely have to meet. I personally, while watching it, didn't necessarily expect every single one of those people to be signed to Impact Wrestling. I mean that's essentially, like, I would say maybe the highest tier of the released names with the WWE, in my opinion. With a few missing, of course, but I just couldn't necessarily see every single one of those people showing up on that show. I really do feel like it was maybe more so to, let the audience guess who among the group might be showing up.
Yeah, I would say that, unless they have like an ace up their sleeve, but I mean, they teased the biggest name, and that would be Rusev. Like, who would be bigger than Rusev that you could tease? So I think that you almost have to deliver on that one, and the rest is kind of gravy. But I mean, I think it's something interesting. I mean, I will say, like, after this aired, it was somewhat indicative to me of how many people are watching Impact live, because I saw very little discussion about this after Impact last night. I mean, you saw a bit more today. And I guess it's just like, that's kind of the level of buzz Impact's going to get. It was something. And I think that this is, as big a hook as Impact has right now to tease some new blood coming in. Are they going to do some kind of invasion angle? What are they going to do? Impact could certainly use that to get some eyes on their product right now that, it is a very good product. It's one that just gets somewhat lost in the shuffle. So this is an attempt to, I guess, just create a spotlight for themselves. Do you like a Saturday night pay-per-view slot for Impact? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter so much for me. I mean, I like Saturdays because you can sleep in the next day. So I personally enjoy it. But I think we'll see, like this Sunday, I don't think it personally matters that much to me. But as far as, the importance of like these shows, these jumping on points are always incredibly important for a company like Impact. And, coming off of the Tessa Blanchard stuff last time, that has definitely, like, what felt like was like, like sort of like a momentum building period for Impact was definitely derailed. And I would say coronavirus, on top of that, pretty much like it feels like almost they're starting from scratch again. So they kind of have to make a big move, I would say.
Do you think that the big success of UFC and what Double or Nothing just did, that might have influenced their thinking to run Saturday? That maybe that's a better night to draw from fans that are, hungry for sports content, and maybe is a more desirable night than a Sunday?
I don't, not for me, John. Like, if a UFC took place or if an AEW Double or Nothing took place on a Sunday, do you feel like it would have done differently?
Ultimately, no. I mean, UFC is so ingrained on Saturday nights, and I guess AEW is to a degree. I think AEW would have done the same business on Sunday night as Saturday night. I think that show had a lot of interest, especially in the 24 hours leading into it. So I don't think the night made a big difference. But I mean, for Impact, I mean, you're doing small business on pay-per-view. I think that's when you do try experiments like this. Like, hey, let's see. Maybe Saturday is a more advantageous night for us. And maybe it's just a one-time thing. They do Saturday, they go to Sunday another time. I mean, typically Sunday is wrestling pay-per-view night, and AEW is kind of re-educating people to that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and just on the Drake Maverick front, tonight's NXT does end with Drake Maverick losing to El Hijo del Fantasma, but then Uncle Paul comes out and he has a contract for Drake Maverick for the NXT brand.
Okay, awesome. A little bit of late breaking news. Andrew Thompson just informed me that AEW announced that Arn Anderson signed a multi-year deal.
Oh, okay.
So
they have locked in Arn Anderson then.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that face-to-face with Jake. They were like, you know what? Let's lock this guy in. So there you go. Arn Anderson signing a long-term deal with AEW. So you can find more of that on the site. And last news item here is just looking at Raw. They did 1,728,000 viewers. It was almost identical to last week, and they really fell in the third hour. But unlike most weeks where Raw is near the top of the cable charts, Monday night obviously was just dominated by cable news. So Raw was way down the cable viewership in the main demo, which, I mean, when you look at the fact that they maintained the same audience as last week, given all of the interest in what's going on in the world, I guess you take that as a small victory for Raw that they at least stayed flat, even though, I mean, it is still a very low number in Raw's history.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was such a bad show, so...
Well, most agreed with you by the third hour because the first 2 hours were pretty consistent, and then they had a fairly big drop to the third hour was the second lowest hour in the history of Raw. So that was the third hour interest. And a quick note on SmackDown, because we did talk about this on Monday. Dave Meltzer had this clarification that the final SmackDown number that got reported was 2,170,000 viewers. But what they did was they did take certain Fox affiliates that were covering the protests on Friday and not carrying SmackDown. So the actual SmackDown number was almost equal to the week prior, 2,054,000 viewers. So it wasn't really a case that the Jeff Hardy thing spiked numbers any higher. It was more so SmackDown was about equal to the week prior, which again, there's a lot of focus on real world events at the moment and following the news with all of the protests that are going on that at least WWE can say that for Raw and SmackDown, their viewership, it didn't get diminished from the week prior. They stayed flat. And I guess that would be, I guess, good enough for them this week.
I gotta know who did that to Elias.
Well, that's the big tease for Friday is Jeff Hardy is going to tell all.
Oh, okay.
He's going to tell all. Let's move on to Dynamite and tonight's show taped last week from Daly's Place. And we started things off with a video for Black Lives Matter and stating your voices, your ideas, your dreams matter. We see you, we hear you, and we stand with you. And this, I mean, by this point, pretty much, WWE has, made their statements. Impact had a statement, dedicated their show to George Floyd, and also they refrained from any social media activity during Impact. They said out of respect. And then we had AEW kicking their show off this week. How would you think, as an overall sense, because this is something a lot of sports leagues and individuals have faced, like how they have addressed it. How would you feel the wrestling companies have responded?
I thought AEW did really, it was really nice to see AEW here. I mean, for me specifically, it doesn't surprise me when companies are making statements now. I think it's, at this point, seeing perhaps the level of specificity put into the statements about exactly
the language,
how they feel, and specifically, I think the mention of the term Black Lives Matter itself, which I don't believe WWE included. I haven't seen the other ones from Impact or other companies, but AEW specifically did here, and I thought that directly draws that line, to tell you this is how we feel, and you need to make a strong statement now.
Yeah. Impact's here. They just they dedicated the episode and then said, Impact Wrestling stands against racism and violence in support of diversity and inclusion for everyone. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Floyd family and all who have endured social injustice. I was somewhat surprised at how how much they covered it on WWE Backstage this week. They had a panel chat with Punk, with Booker T, Mark Henry, and Renee Young. And I mean, it wasn't a huge portion of the show, but it was, a pretty passionate speech from CM Punk, and then also Mark Henry, who took part in some of the protests, and Booker T weighing in as well. And it seems certainly it was much more prevalent on that show than Raw, which did not have anything this week.
Right. A discussion show like that, it seems like it's a much better forum than, I guess, a fictitious wrestling show that was pre-taped, was it not, this week? This Monday?
Raw was taped last week. So really, all you could have expected would have been something off at the top, likely.
Right.
Or they could have inserted something if they had, I guess, chosen to. But
I mean, AEW was pre-taped today too, so
that's right, and they had the start.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, with like any sort of show, it's hard to have any sort of like jump into a fictitious world of pro wrestling without actually talking about these real world events. And I think they have had a unique opportunity to show the wrestling audience what some of their performers specifically had to say about it and sharing their experiences, which I haven't seen the show yet, but it sounded like it was an important discussion.
All right. On to the rest of the episode. So after the opening, they showcased Britt Baker, and this week she was in this truck called the Rolls Royce.
Yes. ROLE.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm wondering how many of these she can get by, because she had from the role model, which she's sticking with, then the Rolls Royce. It's like, wow, this is the new long-term storyline I'm invested in.
Like the streak of puns.
Yeah. I mean, she's hit him out of the park 2 weeks in a row.
We wait. So, I think it's been one of the best things on this show.
What if AEW spends the big bucks and they license 2001 classic Rollin'? She rolls out.
Yeah. You spell it differently? ROLE.
You've got to. Yeah.
Huh.
Keep. Yeah.
It all goes back to Limp Bizkit.
That's it. Vicky Guerrero was spotted in the audience wearing her Inner Circle shirt. And then we kick things off with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page against Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian for the AEW tag titles. They did mention in the commentary they were still promoting Fyter Fest as later this summer, and it was just the graphics that had the specific dates, which we would get to. We saw the Best Friends kind of scouting, and then the most socially distant tag team, FTR, was off by themselves in seats way in the back.
Clearly, they're taking this thing seriously.
Yeah, I mean, they could have maybe been a seat or two apart from one another, but nonetheless, they were away from
They're
from
driving
the crowd.
in a car together. They probably live together at this point.
I guess at this point, yes. Penelope Ford goes for the Rana off the top, and Paige blocks her, but then looks at Rick Knox and is like, what should I do? What do I have to do right here? He did not want to break any rules, have any infractions, so he just dropped her down, and she gets ejected. I thought it was a funny spot.
It was funny. Shivani, I thought it was pretty notable when he said that he thinks that Paige and the Bucks, them not getting along is something that seems to be water under the bridge, which, I think begs the question, and I would assume that this would be the case. Have they dropped the idea of Paige turning heel completely?
I think it's probably on the back burner, and it's not a story they're focusing on, but one that I could see them revisit it at a time later, and then we can always reference, this period that they did have these problems with one another. But there's certainly no hints of it now that it doesn't seem like they're going that direction. And with the insertion of FTR now, I think maybe, you want to keep these guys with the tag titles, and they're more valuable in this tag division right now than splitting them up.
I had certainly wondered, what this layoff would have done for Paige, because he was seemingly sequestered in his part of the world while these tapings were going on. But seeing him on this show, seeing him, of course, in Stadium Stampede, he still really feels like one of the hottest things in this company. So I think they'd be foolish to consider turning him heel right now. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't keep a bit of that kind of loner mystique that he kind of developed, which is still seemingly apparent.
So Jimmy Havoc grabs a wrench and takes out both Page and Omega. And they're double teaming Page. Omega is still down. He's out from this wrench attack. Jim Ross is saying, look at Havoc's haircut. Shivani says, his haircut, look at the marks on his head from all the damage he's put himself through. Omega eventually gets the hot tag. He is going nuts here. Rana's to both. He does the you can't escape into a backstabber on Kip Sabian, who is seated on the second turnbuckle. Page comes in and they hit a Kotaro Crusher into Page's shooting star. Then Havoc gets a hacksaw and not Jim Duggan and gets stopped by Page. And then with Page seated in the corner, they put Omega up on the shoulders with a DVD onto Page, the identical spot that injured Britt Baker. This one went off much better. And from there,
the size of the opponents were much more favorable.
Yes, and was dropped more, I guess, away from the knee. So that was good. Havoc hit Sing the Sorrow, which is his elevated DDT. Page makes a save, and then it's Omega with the Snapdragon, a V-trigger, and they hit the last call, which is the V-trigger buckshot lariat combo onto Jimmy Havoc for the win in 13:38. Really strong tag match, I thought.
Yeah, especially those last several minutes. I thought they were awesome. Really good match. Really good to see Page back. I think he's been sorely missed. Kenny has had some really fun tag team combinations, but Page and Omega are like a pay-per-view level tag team. They're the team that you would pay to watch to see. They are something special, and I didn't think they missed a beat here. I thought Havoc and Sabian did really well these past couple weeks. It's been good exposure for them, for their in-ring abilities. I did, however, find myself pretty disengaged for much of the match here when they had control, and I think a big part of that is because I simply don't care too much about their characters or their personalities just yet. The whole thing is like, I think Havoc's trying really hard to get over the fact that he's a madman who uses ridiculous weapons, but at this point it just seems more kind of slapsticky, kind of more just, look how crazy I am, I got a hacksaw, rather than any sort of maybe real insight into the character behind the guy. And I think the Penelope Ford valet interfering stuff to me is a bit of a tired cliche, but in ring I think they're great. It's just the out of ring stuff I really want to see get some attention.
Yeah, to me it's with Jimmy Havoc. I mean, just compare the depth of a Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc, who just seems to be, has no depth to me on this show. You can't really there's been no kind of out of the ring stuff to showcase this character other than the guy's nuts.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I think that they're, just not a team that to me has really gone beyond just kind of a surface level team who are fine. They were fine for this TV match.
Yeah.
But that's, you do kind of see their ceiling right now in this loaded tag division.
Mm-hmm.
We had only a brief clip of Tully's awesome promo. Please tell me, Wai, that you sought this thing out after I raved about it. Did you see the full promo?
Yes, I did. Yes, it was Tully Blanchard screaming passionately about Sean Spears, about him turning on AEW Double or Nothing with his friends, getting ready to watch Sean Spears' match with Dustin Rhodes, and then seeing his face on the man's crotch as he embarrasses himself. It was a very passionate, very, angry Tully. It was lovely to see him fired up.
So Tully gets into the back seat of a vehicle where Sean Spears is. Tully explains that the search for the tag team, that stuff's over with. I have found the missing piece. And he opens a case, and Spears takes out a fingerless leather glove. And he puts the glove on, and Jim Ross says that a lot of dangerous men have used the glove, and they did not mention the likes of Blackjack Mulligan or Barry Windham, but that was the idea here. I don't know if this would necessarily translate if you were not following pro wrestling of 40 years ago, but nonetheless, this was the answer that he's been searching. Not all these tag partners. He's been missing a glove.
So I needed you to fill me in, John, on the significance. But what was? Did Tully have any connection?
Barry Windham was obviously a big rival. Blackjack Mulligan. From the the Mid-Atlantic days. Ted DiBiase had the glove as well. Like, it has I guess, significance from like a bygone era, but I don't know.
Was it the glove, or was it was DiBiase connected to like the Wyndham and?
Well, I mean, Mulligan and Wyndham have obviously like the family connection, but it would be Blanchard is not really.
Like, was this glove like an actual?
I don't think it would be their personal glove that's been handed down.
Well, what I mean is like, was it like? I guess it is symbolic, but is it? Anyway, I suppose we shall see, right?
I think they could have done a better job trying to get this across, because I think to 90% of the people watching this, it's okay. You've got a leather glove, and that's the answer. That's the answer to all of Sean Spears' problems. Brian Cage destroyed Sean Dean in a minute 35 with the buckle bomb, which is allowed in AEW, and the drill claw.
Because that move is banned now in the WWE.
It's gone. No more buckle bombs, and I can't say I'm upset it's gone.
I don't think this drill claw would have been allowed in the WWE either.
Well, you will get some performers that will argue that it's not the move that's dangerous, it's the people that are dangerous. And not being a worker, I will defer to them. But that's the buckle bomb. It's like the criticism has always been, it's like you aren't really in control of, like, you're not seeing where you're hitting, so it's very hard to be in control of that. And there's like a certain level of danger that's required when you can't see where you're going, as opposed to a move that you can have control over. Like, but nonetheless, this is
I'm not upset either. There are a lot of wrestling moves I can do without one or two. It's fine.
So Brian Cage wins. Taz cuts a promo, staring right into the camera, saying that last week Moxley had the audacity to laugh and snicker when he said that Cage would beat the shit out of him. This is not a joke to them. This is serious. Get your head on right, or it's going to get taken off. So Moxley comes out. Taz tells him to think before you enter this ring, because if you step into this ring with that title on the line, Moxley says, when I step into this ring with my title on the line, it is the farthest thing from a game. He's been impressed with Cage, and he can fight him all night long. Moxley is a different thing entirely. Cage is going to find out that he's in over his head at Fyter Fest, and you're swimming with a different breed of shark. And remember who you're talking about when you bring my name up on TV. And out leaves Moxley. That's our main event for Fyter Fest, which is a month away.
Just a bit of general trash talk. I mean, I think Moxley, we know what he's capable of here. I didn't necessarily think this was like an attempt to be his best promo or anything, really just more so to have his presence out there. But Taz, I still think it's so great that we're getting FTW Taz. This isn't Joey Numbers Taz, This is Taz like from ECW, cutting promos, the type of Taz that's going to kill you. And he brings that same attitude, that same meanness here, except he's cutting promos now on the current generation of wrestlers. And he said it great here. It makes Brian Cage not just look, but sound like a top-tier act.
Yeah, I mean, FTW Taz, tough enough Taz. This is the manager you want.
Mm-hmm.
What was that line he had on Tough Enough? If you don't believe in God, start.
Wow. Okay.
Marvez is out in some random site with Lance Archer, destroying some masked individual while Jake is trying to restrain him. And Lance cuts a promo about losing to Cody and something about spot monkeys. And Jake apologized to Alex Marvez as Lance Archer is off to create destruction.
He's going to break more toilets, maybe?
No toilet will be safe. Lance Archer.
Every toilet dies.
This promo kind of went down the toilet, I thought.
It was okay. I mean, I guess coming off of the Cody loss, they're just waiting for the next thing for him.
Yeah, he's just about town, just attacking people. Private Party are hanging out when Matt Hardy, 1998 version, walks in. And he's here to check on Mark Quinn's knee. He's fine. He's not going to miss any time. Matt says, I enjoyed our match last week. You are the future of tag wrestling. And he starts comparing them to the Hardys, and these two act like the biggest super fans you've ever seen. They're going nuts. They're doing their Hardy impressions. Matt is somehow just keeping a smile on his face and not just laughing at these two. And Isaiah Cassidy suggests the three of them become the Hardy Party.
A Hardy Party.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, cool. So then Matt leaves. He sees Sammy Guevara and says, hey, we're good. Respect. And Sammy looks confused. And that was our segment here to either set up some kind of a allegiance here, but to me, ultimately, Matt turning on these two. Because that's the only way I can see this ending with Matt.
On Private Party, really?
Oh, yeah. I thought they were so annoying here that Matt would have to... Oh, they were, I thought, just a little bit too much here.
I enjoy the interaction. You know, this was like... It's the past kind of fanboying over, the present fanboying over like these legends, and you have, you know, like an up and coming tag team in Private Party, essentially like paying respect to like, you know, one of the best tag teams of all time in the Hardy Boys and Matt Hardy here. And I thought it was interesting how it was like Matt Hardy from Team Extreme being represented rather than like Broken Matt Hardy, because I guess this whole like fanboying stuff wouldn't have worked as well talking to Damascus. And you had, you know, Matt Hardy give his endorsement here, and probably, you know, the start of a triple trio, So it just continues like Matt Hardy's full integration into the AEW universe, and to me, it was like a great bit of spotlight on Private Party. Honestly, it's not a combination I would have predicted, Matt Hardy with Private Party, but I think it'll work.
We just need to find a bridge between Damascus and Matt Hardy, like from the mid 90s.
Well, yeah, V1, he's done. What did he do after that?
Can't he just dress like he probably dressed like coming to the arena today? Did he have to put on like the Hot Topic outfit?
I mean, that's not a vessel, though. You know, that's not a known vessel. You know what I mean? What did he do after version 1?
He remember he had his well, that was then the whole Edge feud was that followed V1.
Heartbroken Matt Hardy?
Yeah. Heartbroken.
Yeah.
Heartbroken Matt Hardy. Yeah. That's from above Matt Hardy. Emo Matt.
Yeah.
What was his thing? Matt Hardy will not die. That was his thing. Yeah.
So that's the type of like Matt Hardy that get that like will go after anybody with like a girlfriend. Is that type?
Opposite. It would be, you know, he was one that lost the girlfriend.
Right.
He's not going after the girlfriend.
And then like what happened? Like you could, because no one will ever recognize like ECW Matt Hardy or TNA Matt Hardy or ROH. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. If he transformed to those vessels, I don't know how big of a reaction they would get.
This is where they announced Fyter Fest for July 1st and 8th on TNT with all the titles on the line.
Okay.
They did several recaps of the Tyson angle, so they put a lot of attention on that. And then from last week, they showed footage from backstage where Jericho was yelling at Colt Cabana and blaming him for getting in my way to get at Tyson. So that set up Chris Jericho and Colt Cabana, who had their first match ever. It's pretty remarkable when you consider Cabana's been wrestling for over 21 years. Jericho's been wrestling for 30. And this is their first match ever.
It does feel like a bit of a surprise, but you know, when you really think about their careers, there really would have been no way for them to cross their path. I mean, unless you count like the brief time Cabana was in WWE, but they were such different levels. And more importantly, John, I felt this was a battle of perhaps the two most prominent wrestler podcasters.
That is right. The Art of Jericho.
Yeah.
Jericho comes out with Sammy Guevara singing his song out of sync, mumbling at the lyrics. It was really impressive how great he was at being awful at this. The goal was to be awful.
Yeah.
And he did it
great.
tremendously well.
He was hilarious. I mean, have you ever heard like actual musicians sing without like a monitor, or like perhaps they're lip syncing and then instead it's like their mics are actually on? Like, anyway, it reminded me of like, you remember Enrique Iglesias?
Yes.
So he was just like, I guess, doing a sound check one time, and he was just like goofing around. And you know his song, like The Rhythm Divine?
Yes.
So he just decides to like, fuck around and just like sing really poorly and just like go, like he went nuts. And somebody, I guess, doing the sound check recorded this, and somehow Howard Stern got a copy of it.
Dude, Edge 102 got this with, I'm pretty sure that's the station, had a similar thing. I can't remember the artist, but yeah, so Stern played this?
Oh, like nonstop. Like for months he played this. To the point where Enrique Iglesias felt the need to go onto the show to prove that he could sing it for real. Anyway, it's great. I encourage everybody to find it if it's still out there.
So Jericho is unloading with punches, I guess showing off his boxing game here. Jake Hager stares down Cabana, and then there's an acai moonsault by Colt onto both Jericho and Hager, and he's bleeding from the mouth. They go through the break. Jericho's in control. Cabana hits the bionic elbow, the flying apple, and a splash. Jericho misses a lion salt, and then he psychs out Cabana, who goes for the Superman cover, but Jericho has telegraphed it, and he counters it into the walls, only to get a rope break. Cabana then hits a top rope Frankensteiner, and then out of the corner, he spins around into the Judas effect. They say he got too fancy, got caught with the Judas effect, and Jericho wins the match.
I thought it was a good match. Different from your certainly like usual high-flying AEW style, but I think for many fans of AEW's particular audience, this was like a low-key dream match between like two longtime personalities who have never met before. And I thought they both packed as much of their repertoire as they could at this point in their careers into these, 8 minutes? How long was this match?
With the commercial, it was almost 10.
Okay, yeah. I was satisfied.
I liked it. I really like the ending sequence was really cool too, with the fake out to set up the Superman reversal. And then just a simple way. I really like the different variations of like how Jericho hits the Judas effect. Like it's very much kind of like the Diamond Cutter, where it's just comes out of nowhere and has multiple different ways that it hits, and it's probably the most protected finish in AEW.
One Winged Angel too. You throw
those would be the two.
But what is it? Certainly like if you're talking about like out of nowhere finishers, I'm sure he much prefers doing this at his age compared to the Code Breaker.
Yes, definitely. Jericho tells them to shut their ass and says the same thing is going to happen to Mike Tyson, that piece of shit. And he called last week's Angle the most talked about event in sports history. It's the fight everyone wants to see, and he wants to taste the blood of Mike Tyson when he shoves his head straight up his ass.
Yeah.
Where would he? That's gross. That's really gross.
Shoving anything up any ass, like, and the threat of doing it.
Until he bleeds. And tasting that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what he said. Those were the words. He says, I want to challenge you right now. I'm not waiting to the next pay-per-view. I want the baddest man on the planet. So out comes Orange Cassidy. And he comes into the ring, puts Jericho's hands under his belt. Hager then goes for him. They both take their turns. They miss Cassidy, who evades both of them and goes to the floor and is lifted over the guardrail by the best friends as the inner circle runs out. I don't know for sure if this is happening, but I feel we're getting Jericho and Orange Cassidy at Fyter Fest, and I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Oh, for sure it's happening.
It's got to be.
Tease here.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's a good program for Fyter Fest. It's not necessarily like the type of marquee match I think people would pay for. People will pay for Jericho versus Tyson, but something like Orange Cassidy versus Jericho, it's I think it's really good, especially if it's a TV main event type of thing.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's a really intriguing match.
Might not be a main event, I don't think, but second to last or something like that. Something on the card.
Yeah, if you got both titles, you would think like the TNT and AEW titles would probably close both nights. You would think. Yeah, I'm very curious how like Fyter Fest, like what is, because that would be the ceiling of what an episode of Dynamite can attract, I would say.
At this point, like during the pandemic.
Yeah, like I would say, we'll see what this week's number was. Last week they did a pretty good number even by previous standards, but these would be the shows that you would hope are going to do well north of like 900 or so, get to that like 950 if not higher range. Like I think that would be the target for those shows with a month of promotion and presenting them like 2 pay-per-view cards. Then we had Britt Baker's Road to Recovery video. This was featured her wheeling these like light weights attached to her wheelchair. She's doing her leg exercises with Rebel as the assistant. She's doing the battle ropes at like the slowest pace imaginable. Dr. Michael Sampson is there. Shivani is there to root her on. It was so cheesy, but it was just awesome because of Britt Baker.
I thought it was amazing. I thought this was a tremendous way to follow up on the promo she did. And, as I think many of us would have predicted, like something like this unfortunate injury, her character with her amount of creativity and the people that are, whoever's helping her with these, or if she's coming up with them herself, like a leg injury is not going to stop somebody. In fact, like it seems to have made her and her character even more interesting and more creative. And I thought this was a great follow-up. She's not recycled one gag yet. The first week we had that Office type of documentary. We had that great kind of like, promo easel thing last week. And then this week it was like a cheesy slow-mo, like inspirational workout video. I just continue to be so impressed by her. It's my favorite thing on this show.
Big Swole, Nyla Rose, they were putting this over that this is Big Swole's first match in 2.5 months. She had this big headlock takeover, then went to an abdominal stretch. Rose gets sent over the top to the floor, and then Swole is swept on the apron, and they show Baker and Rebel in the Rolls Royce watching. They go through the commercial. Rose is bending her over the knee, and then Swole flips into the ring with a cutter. It gets stopped, and then Swole chop blocks the knee. Rose catches her with a spear coming off the rope, but the Beast Bomb gets countered with a roll-up by Swole for a 2 count. She tries for Dirty Dancing. It's stopped, and Rose hits a sit-out spine buster, more so of a power bomb, and then wins the match in 9.5 minutes.
Rehab match for Nyla. But, really, as much of that as it was as much of a showcase for Big Swole, who I thought looked pretty good here. I thought it was really interesting how she seemed to be the focus here because Tony spoke with her afterwards, despite losing the match.
Yeah, I mean, they made this much more of a focus on Swole. They showed a shot of Hikaru Shida watching Nyla Rose after the win, and then as Shivani speaks with Swole, he praises her after being off for 2.5 months, says it's good to be back, and she says it recentered her while she was gone, and she points and says that the fans are behind her.
Mm-hmm. I guess so. I do understand.
What fans?
Well, maybe she means like the fans at home are metaphorically behind her.
Okay, she was pointing. I didn't know where she was pointing.
There were some fans, I guess. FTR, yes, sitting in the back.
Vicky,
yeah. I will say I understand, and I definitely don't feel like this loss hurt Big Swole at all. And I understand needing to, use the time to rehab Nyla Rose. But couldn't they have given Swole a win here?
I guess they just don't see her. I mean, I think they still. It felt like they were setting up like Rose probably getting a rematch with Hikaru Shida. That's how I kind of saw this at the end, just with the constant shots to Shida. So, I mean, if that's the direction they're going, I do see
that next week or in a separate match.
I mean, this was it. I mean, they did tell the story that Big Swole's been gone for 2.5 months. I mean, logically, she probably shouldn't be beating the former champion after that time off.
But why put her against the former champion?
Well, she's got to beat somebody.
Could be anybody.
I don't think this really hurts Swole. If anything,
I don't think so either, but I think a win would have done that much better.
If you're going that direction, I don't think they're positioning her for a title match right now. So I mean, they
no. I'm saying I wouldn't have put her against Nyla Rose. Period.
Right. Well, I thought personally, I thought this match at times went a bit too long. I thought having the commercial break in this one, it kind of extended it longer than it needed to be. And I think the big Swole, I think, I still feel that there is a lot of potential in her, but I was glad that she got the promo afterwards because they kind of were setting up something with her and Baker by just Baker starting to yell at her. And then they end up backing up the Rolls Royce into the barricade like she was going to drive into the ring with it. And Swole just picks up a chair and chases them away in the truck. So by the end of this, I think this was one of Big Swole's bigger moments in the company.
Makes you wonder when that match would be,
This is a long-term build.
Yeah.
All out.
She could face Rebel.
I guess, yeah. I mean, she's there as the makeup person, but in theory could do a match.
Yeah.
Then this was the start of 3 consecutive interview segments with Shivani. Our next one was with Darby Allin, who has not been cleared after his attack by Brian Cage. He says life is one big joke. However, Cage, I'll get the last laugh.
I thought it was the wrong setting for this type of promo from Darby Allin. Tony is playing a sportscaster. This was taking place in a medical room or something. And here's Darby Allin being super dark, ultra serious, speaking like a Watchmen character. And in effect, with a one-liner type of thing like this, I thought he came across a little bit comedic here. You're almost expecting the camera to cut back to Tony saying, okay, that type of thing. It's totally, I think, the wrong type of setting for, how compared to how good Darby usually comes across in those black and white videos.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, even with that one line about life is one big joke, but I'll get the last laugh as he burns a photo of Brian Cage with his leg on fire or something.
In black and white. The
just
black
lots
and white,
of fire.
The black
and white flames.
Yeah.
Then Shivani does his sit down with FTR. And the first question, what does FTR stand for? And they explain it's not a tagline. It's a way of life. It's anything they want it to be. It could be follow the rules or
follow
for now,
the rules.
Follow the rules. Yeah. Imagine 15,000 people chanting that. For now, it is for the revolution. And
see, I really like the t-shirt that they have. Fuck the rest.
There's a lot you can play. Those are 3 good letters that you can make plenty of adjustments to. And they're pretty much doing the CM Punk joke where he would just always come up with different things that it stood for. It's just you can make 1 million shirts with these guys because it can mean 5,000 things. And
maybe perhaps like Punk, they're doing it because the reality of what it stands for is incredibly lame.
Yeah. When Cody and Dustin get together, it's fuck the roads.
Fuck the roads, yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways.
Yeah, we can stop.
Okay. They've had 1.5 years to think about this tag division as they go through them. They called Private Party great kids. They mentioned Santana and Ortiz, watching them. The Lucha Bros are the opposite of what they stand for. Page, it was fun. For some of them, they just got these little subtle jabs in on them. Page and Omega, they're not even a real tag team.
Yeah, no, it's great. Through shots at everybody.
Their delivery was great. I thought both of these two were very, very good. Tony says, you never mentioned the Young Bucks. And Dax explains that that's not a dream match for FTR. We're sick of having to hear Dave Meltzer sing their praises and call them the next Midnight Express. They don't want to have a great tag match. They want to get into the ring and punch them in the mouth and beat them in 3 seconds. And they've dreamed of this moment for 5 years. And the reason they didn't strike them last week was because they don't want there to be any doubt or any excuses that they were softened up by Butcher and the Blade, that Matt Jackson was injured. and they want to beat them and have the announcers apologize and admit FTR were the best tag team. So the interview ends. Tony stands up, and I guess we're supposed to believe that this is we're not supposed to be seeing this, as they're just casually talking, where Schiavone says, I thought FTR meant fuck the Revival. And with that, Butcher and Blade, complete in their white outfits, come in, and they have to be separated. And Cash says it was just business last week, not personal, and perhaps we can just finish it in the ring. And they toss water at the Blade on his birthday, no less, and say, we'll see you next week. So that is going to be FTR's first AEW match next week on television with Butcher and the Blade.
I thought they accomplished so much here with FTR. I thought it was exactly the type of introduction you would hope for a new act in front of a new audience. And look how simple it was. It was like, a couch, Tony, FTR, like one or two cameras there. Didn't need like a beautifully lit backdrop with like smoke or something in the background. No bowling games or anything like that. No scripted promos even. It was just like tag team talking about who they want to face in this division. And they set up their next program with the Butcher and the Blade. They told you what their ultimate destination was, and the Young Bucks told you why they didn't attack the Young Bucks last week. I thought it was like so simple and just so well done. This is like exactly all wrestling needs to be. I think Tony is really great, compared to the last segment where I didn't think that was a really great setting. In a setting like this, he is perfect. He is great for these more conversational kind of.
That's the term I was going to use. The conversation of Tony Schiavone just works so well. Jim Ross is very good in these segments when it comes to like really pushing the big fight and setting the tone when that drama is needed. And Tony, like this, he can just be really laid back and let the guys just carry it. They were fantastic here. I just love this because it's the case so often when we will see someone come into WWE and it's almost like, what we were talking about with Matt Riddle. It's like sometimes you just go with somebody and you tell the world that these guys are the top team that everyone's got to knock off. And it's not this, we're starting at the bottom and we got to slowly build them up on our timetable. And a year from now is when we're really going to get behind them. But by that point, the fans have moved on. In this case, they're coming in, they are establishing we are the best tag team in the world, and they're presenting them as the best tag team in the world. It's not like these guys are delusional or it's tongue in cheek. This is the team to beat, and every team has to be looking over their shoulders at these guys.
I imagine they must have felt so good after a segment like this. Like
when was the last time they had a segment like this?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're great talkers. That was a huge underutilized aspect of these guys.
Yes.
But so next week they've announced FTR against Butcher and the Blade, Colt Cabana versus Sammy Guevara. Mark Quinn will challenge for the TNT title. I guess in an open challenge, you can have a loss and you can still come back and get a title shot.
Yeah, is there like a sign-up sheet or something?
It must be. I mean, maybe everyone was so concerned about him being injured, and he was taken to the trainer's room, and there was the sheet. It's like, hey, I'm the only injured guy here. I'm going to sign my name up. I'm fine.
Maybe they hide the sheet around the arena at a different spot. If you could find it.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Interesting.
Then we've got Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hager against the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. That should end with Orange Cassidy getting bloodied by Jericho.
Damn.
That's how you set that matchup. Oh, my God. Dude, I'm writing this down.
Jeez.
Bloody to a pulp. I'm literally writing that down here on my notes. And Jon Moxley wrestling on AEW Dark next Tuesday.
Sure, yeah. Champion.
Well, why not?
Why not?
Catch Davey Portman's reports every week at postwrestling.com. Mr. Tuesday Night, Davey Portman. Impact and Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Marvez is back. He's with Cabana. Brings up, hey, you lost again. He said, I've proven I can hang with the big guys on national TV. I've gotten some big wins. The big victories lurk over his shoulder, and he's now lost to Lance Archer. Now he's lost to Chris Jericho. So Brody Lee walks in and said, losses are a part of life. Without loss, we don't grow, and it's what we do after a loss and how we respond. And Lee can help him with that. Passes him a bottle of water, and Cabana takes the water, which I guess is maybe to symbolize the Kool-Aid that he's about to be drinking. And he tells Marvez, I'm not interested in joining that group, but we're led to believe that Cabana is considering it as he's hit this stumbling block in his career.
Definitely an interesting combination of personalities. Cabana certainly feels like the least likely candidate for the Dark Order.
Orange Cassidy.
That too, yeah. But Cabana maybe even more so, because Orange Cassidy doesn't speak much, would kind of make for like a druid kind of seamlessly. Cabana,
lazy druid.
the lazy minion. I'd love to see that too. But Cabana is like the happiest man in the world, and for him to join the Dark Order, I'm actually quite interested. I hope this isn't just another Chris Daniels. I'm not joining. Haha. I hope he joins. Like, please, like, have him infiltrate the Dark Order. I need to see either a dark Colt Cabana or a happy Dark Order.
Revolt Cabana.
I don't think they could use the revolt now.
No,
I think that word is banned.
That word is banned, yeah. The WWE got rid of the buckle bomb. These guys can't do revolt. So main event, Cody and Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship. This was booked like the main event of WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah. Big title match. I mean, the first title defense for this brand new belt.
You had to go all out. They did not spare any expense here. Pyro, blood, big spots. Like this had everything. They went through a break. MJF is in the front row, and he calls Jungle Boy a joke. And Jungle Boy asks him, how does your chest feel? And he challenges him to hit him, and they're going back and forth. I hope these two are like lifelong rivals. I hope they are the Ewings and Barnes of AEW, and they hate each other till their dying days.
I think that's what they're going for.
The Ewings and the Barnes?
The Ewings and the Barnes, exactly. Yeah, I have to imagine. Yeah.
Because MJF is clearly JR, and I guess Jungle Boy, I don't really... He definitely screams more like Bobby, but for the purpose of my narrative, would have to be Cliff.
I thought you were talking about basketball.
No, Patrick was not part of that Ewing family.
Okay.
Cody... So after this break... Jungle Boy and MJF are attacking or yelling back and forth at each other. We cut over. Cody's been thrown into a wall, and he has just donated blood to all of the citizens of Jacksonville.
Oh, and to the camera guy, blood all over this lens.
Yep.
Yeah, I still feel really weird about intentional blood during all of this, but yeah, I don't know. I'm actually not that informed about the transmission rates through blood. But anyway, they are tested, so.
Arn gets Bryce to go check on Cody. Jungle Boy then goes after the cut, and Cody gets away, hits this bicycle kick, but then he gets drop kicked on the turnbuckle, and Cody hits a superplex, takes off the weight belt, but he tosses it away. He's not going to utilize it here on Jungle Boy. The figure four gets stopped, and then we see this table that has been set up on the floor from when they were down there. And the two fight on top, and they crash through the table, and they cut away to Arn, which was like the second best cutaway this year outside of the Larry Bird cutaway in the Pacers-Bulls game in The Last Dance.
The Larry Bird cutaway?
Where Reggie Miller hits the three-pointer. Yeah. And everyone is ecstatic. They think, Indiana's going to win. And we cut to Larry Bird, and he's like,
stoic, yeah.
Not buying it. Not buying it at all. Cody kicks out when he rolls him in the ring, and then Cody fires up. He hits this crazy-looking crossroads that looks like he spikes him right down on the head, pins him in 12-21, and Cody, all bloody, grabs him like he's Shawn Michaels to the retired Ric Flair. Like, that's the image they went for here. The locker room empties with Brandy, Dustin, the Jurassic Express. Pyro's going off as Cody and Jungle Boy hug. They shake hands. I mean, this was like the most epic television main event I've seen in my life.
Sure, yeah. I mean, they clearly wanted the type of match that they can, claim afterwards. Oh, did you... If you missed this, You missed the greatest wrestling match ever.
This was not the greatest wrestling match ever. This was good. I enjoyed the match, but to me, this didn't hold a candle to me of what Jungle Boy did last weekend.
I agree with you. I mean, I thought it was a good match too.
It was a good match. Like it was a fine start to this TNT run, but I wouldn't say this. I would say like you could debate if the tag match was better than this.
Earlier in the show, I liked the tag match more, actually.
Yeah, I did too. I think, yeah.
You know, it was good, and I think they just wanted everything possible to ensure that it was. I don't know if they were hoping. They're probably hoping for an epic match. I don't know if they got there, but it needed to feel like it was a big deal because they wanted to establish this belt as the workers' belt. And
you can't force the epic, which is what Edge and Randy Orton are going to learn too.
Yeah. And, you know, certainly you could kind of see through it, even in a case like this with the fireworks and this. Part of my concern. Okay, well, first let me talk about the match. I think, first of all, you know, as the weeks progress and seeing where they're going with the TNT title, it really continues to make more sense why Cody would be the perfect candidate for it. If you're going to do an open challenge type of thing, Cody is a perfect wrestler because he can easily transition sort of between your heel and babyface roles within a match, depending on who the opponent is. I would say here, at least for the first half of this match, he pretty much like kind of played like your favorite oversized guy against pretty much the perfect underdog they have in a Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not the same type of thing you could do if somebody like a Lance Archer won this belt, and if he set up an open challenge, like you would just expect like a bunch of squashes, right? You can't have these big epic battles unless it was a character like Cody. You know, as far as like the blood goes, when it occurred, I was a little concerned that it would take away from the babyface underdog story they're telling with Jungle Boy. And I'm trying to think like why in a match like this you would have Cody bleed rather than Jungle Boy bleed if you're gonna have anybody bleed.
I didn't like the blood, to be honest. To me, it was like just trying to like force the drama, and
right.
This match did not call for it. To me, I think he had enough to work with. That the blood to me was just gratuitous.
I guess the idea was to make Jungle Boy look like he's taken Cody to the limit.
That was, I think, the effect. Like with the near falls, like Cody is playing Ric Flair in this role, and this is the traveling champion that goes to the territory and makes the babyface come within an inch of winning the title. Like that seems to be the prototype that Cody is following here, right down to the blood.
See, but I think that only works if Flair is the heel and Cody
which Flair was, and Cody is.
In this case, you kind of like you're led to feel sympathy for Cody, which to me took away from Jungle Boy's sympathy. Which, you know, by the end they wanted like this big epic bloody battle, and you know they tried their best to get to it. But I would have personally liked to have seen just a straight up like babyface Jungle Boy type of match. But anyway, it was still good.
I liked tonight's episode. Very quick moving show. I thought you had a lot of good wrestling on the show between the tag match, the main event. I enjoyed Jericho and Cabana on the show as well. And you have your destination with Fyter Fest that's coming up in a month. That will, I think they can really build up those shows to feel important, especially coming off Double or Nothing, where I think AEW has really established themselves as putting on quality shows, and putting them on free TV it'll be an interesting test to see how many people that have heard the word of mouth of these shows spike those numbers.
I think it should do pretty well, especially if they're promoting it this far in advance, like a whole month, right? I like the show a lot. I thought, the return of a lot of talent, certainly like a Hangman Page, made the show really good. I love the build for a lot of their main matches coming up. We got to see Chris Jericho wrestle on the show. Some good promos as well. Britt Baker was excellent. So, yeah, solid.
And the debut of the glove.
The glove. Yeah.
All right, let's go to some feedback and see what everyone thought about Dynamite. Tonight, the poll gave this show an 8 out of 10. Ari from Montreal. Is there a clause in Cody's contract he has to do color in big matches? Seems unnecessary. Well, most times. Yeah, it's not unnecessary in some of his matches. It's added to it. I've said many times, I'm not a fan. I can understand why blood is appreciated, and there's no doubt it does add to a drama. But I'm not the biggest fan of blood, just at all in pro wrestling. But in this company, they are going to utilize it a lot more than WWE is going to, and there is a dramatic effect it adds, but there's also, a certain uneasiness I have with blood.
Certainly, like the both times we've seen it recently with Cody and with Dustin in their matches using it for I would say I understood why he did it more here, but Dustin doing it in the first round or second round of that TNT tournament thing, I think screams that it really that they're bordering on relying on that as a crutch right now, because they can, and it is certainly getting to that point, at least for me and seemingly Ari here. Oh, my turn. We go to Andrew from Cape Breton, who says, AEW was good tonight. I really enjoyed the tag team match at the start of the show and felt it really did a good job in establishing Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc as strong contenders, even though they haven't been a team for that long. On Twitter, what I found interesting was Cash Wheeler criticizing them for the lack of use of the tag rope. I really follow the rules, right? FTR. Yep. I really like FTR scouting tag teams and tag team matches from the crowd. FTR could be in AEW what Jim Cornette could have been if Cornette wasn't so toxic. Speaking of people in the crowd, how the crowd is used is night and day compared to WWE. It seems the people in the crowd are important because some of them are undercard talent, but some of them are also stars who are scouting and eventually being used in the show. I think NXT could have used that with Drake Maverick, and maybe some of his main roster friends show up in solidarity to cheer him on. Highlight of the show was Britt Baker, who is one of the best people on the show. 7 yellow Power Rangers out of 10.
Yes, that was Big Swole's outfit. The Yellow Ranger. Noah from Vaughn writes, he enjoyed the show tonight. It was awesome seeing Hangman and Kenny team up on Dynamite again. The opening tag was very fun. Sabian and Havoc have really taken a big step forward in 2020, in my opinion. Britt Baker continues to be the most entertaining part of any wrestling show. That 60-second montage had me dying of laughter. 8.5 out of 10 show for me tonight. Although it wasn't officially announced, do you think they end up doing Orange Cassidy versus Jericho at one of the Fyter Fest shows? I think that would be a nice hook, similar to the intrigue that Cassidy and Pac had at Revolution. Definitely. Yeah,
I think so too. I think it's at this point almost too big of a match to just give away on a random Dynamite, and they could do it for a pay-per-view, honestly, if they wanted to. But I think for a Fyter Fest, it's almost perfect.
Yep.
We go to Kenny, who says, I really enjoyed the show tonight. The tag title match was really good, and Penelope Ford continues to look like a star. Britt Baker's montage was great. Brian Cage looked like a beast, and Colt versus Jericho was a lot of fun. While I liked the show, that main event made no sense to me. Of all the matches for Cody to do blood in, this was not it. Then both guys fall through a table in a moment I thought was destined to be a double countout, only for Cody to pop right up and win. I've been looking forward to the open challenge, but I have to say they're 0-1 so far. Wow.
Raymond from Sacramento. While not a distraction from the current state of the world, tonight's Dynamite from the opening title card all the way to the end of the show was a very easy to watch show. Good wrestling, a Dynamite segment for the role model Britt Baker, multiple other backstage moments, and a really good main event. Cody going heelish in the match made Jungle Boy Jack Perry look like an even bigger babyface than he already was. The blood looked fake, and I loved how the table snapped. I look forward to the weekly TNT title defenses. 9 out of 10 show.
I guess it could have been fake blood.
It's an option you can use. There's no rule that says you have to use real blood. It would be much more sanitary to just use fake blood, and most people probably can't tell the difference.
Especially if it's a taped show.
Yep.
All right, we got a Doug from Tupton Classic UK who says, firstly, to all our friends in the U.S., our thoughts and solidarity goes out to you during these changing times. We must hope that lasting, progressive, systemic change comes from this and that minority ethnic groups no longer have to face such routine indignities and grotesque persecutions as a part of everyday life. It is long overdue that inequality be on everybody's lips, and it's a travesty for such circumstances to be necessary to bring this conversation to the fore. On to Dynamite. I very much enjoyed tonight's show and had few faults to find. The in-ring throughout was impressive, and there was also some excellent mic work, with Taz and Moxley being the standout after Brian Cage was made to look superb once again. AEW proves its quality as both a product and as a roster when you find yourself expecting Tyson to come out to confront Jericho, but instead you get Orange Cassidy, and you're not in the least bit disappointed. My only real criticism from the show was Cody's unnecessary color, which I felt somewhat diminished the otherwise quality main event. I give the show a 9 out of 10 and look forward to the build to Fyter Fest. I'm honestly surprised at the amount of other people that felt critical of Cody's blood. Wow. Really interesting.
It was to me, it was unnecessary. It was just it was, we're going to take every little shortcut we can, and maybe shortcut isn't a fair term, but it was like taking every advantage that we have at our disposal instead of just kind of maximizing what you do have, instead of going to every trick in the book that I don't think you needed in this match. Like you've got the title match. It's a cool story with Jungle Boy, who has been presented as almost like this mentor, Cody being like a mentor to Jungle Boy. And that to me was enough. I didn't think you needed to go to the added lengths. Like, blood should be special. I don't think this called for it at all.
I think it should be a lesson, honestly, to them to not overuse something like this, and even something as gimmicky, like trying to use fireworks to really dress up and create that atmosphere that maybe wasn't really there for this one to begin with. It can be a turnoff rather than something that accentuates the show.
The pyro I had less of an issue with, because it was really establishing that this, like, it feels like a major league show when you're going off the air like that. It makes this title feel important. And I would imagine, like, I just saw like the still shots of like the last shot of NXT with Hunter, with Drake Maverick handing him the title, and you compare it to AEW. It's just, one just seems so much bigger than the other, the perception of it.
True. Yes.
All right. Thanks. A lot of great feedback to tonight's edition of Dynamite. So that's going to wrap it up. Wait, do you have any closing thoughts?
Not so much, honestly. Everybody, it's obviously a difficult period to say the least, but I'm honestly like amazed at how much positivity has come our way, John. I don't know if it's been the same for you, but like, for myself at least, like the feedback has just been like unanimously positive, which is amazing. And continue to share that type of spirit throughout the week, not just this one, but like throughout forever, really. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody. We appreciate it, and we hope everyone's doing safe that's listening to this, and we'll be back Friday night with Rewind to SmackDown.